Hello, everyone, and welcome back to America House Kyiv, virtually and in person. Uh, a shout out to everyone who joined us, our wonderful audience, in person tonight at America House Kyiv. My name is Lucy, and I'll be the moderator for tonight. And we're very excited to have you join us for a very special conversation. Tonight, we have the founder of VECTOR, a New York based arts organization, foundation, artist journal, and they do a lot of great things. And we also have with us Daria Prydybailo. She is the curator of VECTOR Kyiv. She's also the founder of Arts Matter Ukraine. And today we're going to have a conversation about bringing Kyiv into focus of the arts world, present it wider on the international art stage, but also finding ways to showcase local talent and sharing that with the world. We'll have a conversation about direct cultural diplomacy, about what it's like to come to Kyiv and work with local artists, and what it's like to bring together both Ukrainians and Americans to work together. Daria, do you want to say a few words to get us started?
Yeah, hi everyone. I thank you, American House in Kyiv, that you are hosting this event. I'm so grateful and so glad to be here tonight and speak with Peter Gregorio, the founder of VECTOR, which was which was founded in 2007, but now 2023, and we really move on and we don't stop the collaboration, international partnership, and as well as my institution, Art Matters Ukraine, collaborating with VECTOR Foundation. And also, I'm grateful, Peter, for that he came to Ukraine, already visited Lviv, meet partnership. And this is a really important partnership and statement also for all the world that culture process continues. And this is what we fight for.
Excellent. We're really excited to have you both here. And we're going to start out the night with a little presentation from Peter talking about VECTOR, the history of the organization, what they do with the Artist Journal, and a little bit about their upcoming plans. And then we'll have a conversation, the three of us and also our audience. And for those of us watching us online, you can feel free to send in your comments, your questions, and we'll get to them. And we'll just have a conversation tonight. So welcome, Peter.
Welcome,
right.
Peter.
Thank you. All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Peter Gregorio. I'm an artist. I'm from Brooklyn, and I'm the founder of VECTOR, which started as a zine or an art journal. Before I talk about it, I just want to thank Lucy, Zoria, and America House for hosting this. It's really great just to give the project attention. And also Daria Prydybailo, who's the guest editor of the VECTOR Kyiv. And I'm just super thankful to you for doing this with me. There's no possible way I could have done this alone. All right, I can put this down now. VECTOR started in 2007. It started as an artist journal, and it's a kind of hybrid between a zine and a journal. The way it works is each issue takes place in a different city and focuses on the artists who are based in that place or from that culture. So the first issue was New York, obviously, because that's where I'm from. And we get, I curated that one myself. I picked 25 artists. I try to get a spectrum of really big artists and really unknown artists and everything in between. I try to balance it out between men and women and make it diverse with the styles of artwork. So you have video artists and performance artists and painters and sculptors. And we give them 1 to 10 pages, and they have complete freedom to do whatever they want. And we put it in alphabetical order. We print it, and we print about 500 copies, and then we do a launch at a gallery, like a one-night event where we give it away for free. And so the first issue was New York in 2008, and then we did the first 3 issues were in New York, and then I partnered up with a Norwegian artist named Javier Barrios, and we took it international, and we did Oslo, Berlin, Munich, Toronto, the next issue was supposed to be in Istanbul, but then the pandemic happened. So we've been kind of dormant. And this is the first issue, VECTOR Kyiv. So let me just show some images really quick of what it is. And there we go. So this is us in Berlin. And this is how we do it when we do an opening. We stack it in a grid. It's always like that. It always looks the same. Let me just go through it real quick. Come on. There we go. Yeah, so recently this year, about 3 months ago, I launched the VECTOR Foundation. This is an artist-run project. I've been doing it like I do every other project, kind of hacking it. But now I'm, I guess, becoming legit, and I actually formed a nonprofit called the VECTOR Foundation, especially for this project because I think it's an important one. And yeah, so I'm looking. This has forced me to kind of grow up, I guess. These are the partnerships over the years. We've done 9 issues, and we've done a lot of other projects now with VECTOR. So we worked with a diverse group of people. ISCP, MoMA, PS1, organizations in Oslo, Munich. It's sort of amazing because this project keeps growing and growing, sort of way bigger than I thought it would. Okay, these are all the artists we've worked with over the years. It's now up to 225 different artists, maybe more, which is incredible. These are just different images from the openings, the different grids we made. There's New York. We actually did 4 in New York. This is like Berlin and Bergen, Norway, and Oslo. This is from the opening. When we do our launch, it's a one-night event, and lots of people come because if you can imagine 25 to 30 artists per issue, each person invites their circle of friends, and hundreds of people come. And we give it away for free, so it's kind of crazy. And me and my, I have a Norwegian friend who also publishes a magazine, and we were just talking about how it's like a lose-lose scenario, but I like that we just get funding somehow. Like each city's different. This is New York, Oslo, Berlin. This was, we were invited to do a presentation at PS1 MoMA, hosted by Printed Matter for the New York Art Book Fair. They were doing a Norwegian theme, and yeah, so we were invited to participate in that. And so this was like a little movie I made about VECTOR issue 3 in New York. So I want to play it. I don't know if we want to play the whole thing, but yeah. It just shows what the launch event was like. And this was issue 3. We did an Interstate Projects, which is a nonprofit gallery in Brooklyn. Yeah, and I mean, when we first started off, we were doing small galleries. It's always a great event when we do it. So I'll move on. So then somehow we got to issue 8 in 2018, and we were invited to do it at the Whitney Museum, which was just incredible. Like this little artist zine somehow made it to the Whitney. So, And they didn't want to just do the journal launch. They asked us to develop a performance. So we got 8 artists who were performative in the background, and we actually did it in the theater with live performances. It was an incredible night.
Yeah,
These
just
are-
a comment for
yeah,
those
go
who
for it,
might
yeah.
not be familiar with the Whitney Museum. It's one
Yeah.
of the premier contemporary arts institution in the US, like truly one of the greatest based in New York City.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, that's growing up in New York. The Whitney Biennial was like one of the biggest exhibitions, and the artists who would show there would just launch their careers. And so for me to do this there, it was just like incredible. These are just different scenes from the night. They actually have a movie on it, which you can watch. It's on their website. Maybe we'll post a link somewhere. But I'll just show you a couple clips from it. Yeah. And so the guest curator was Ellie Krako.
Welcome to the Whitney. My name is Megan Hoyer. I'm the Director of Public Programs and Public Engagement here. And I'm delighted to welcome you this evening with VECTOR. As you wonder,
We're just going to jump around so you get a feel. That's Ellie Krako. She's the guest editor. This is a video by Leslie Thornton, who's just like one of our iconic video artists.
Some sample choruses will illustrate. One recorded near Tucson, Arizona, following summer rain.
This is Julianne Schwartz. She did a live with these objects she made, like a sound piece.
First of all, happy Pride weekend, everyone. Yes, we're gonna have fun.
Yeah, so each artist did a performance. There was about, I don't know, we filled the auditorium. There was like a queue. Hundreds of people came. It was a great night. Actually, the last artist to perform, Jesus Beneventi, actually brought a mariachi band. Like if you jump to the end, you'll see the mariachi band. This was cool because I wasn't sure if performance, like usually when I encounter performance art, it's in a gallery setting. I wasn't sure, like, does it work on stage? And it works so well. Like I want to start doing a VECTOR performance series where I do this again. So just go to the last one because I want to show the mariachi band. Go all the way to the end, like jump all the way, like, yeah, you'll see the band. And then they lifted the curtains of the Whitney, and you could see the skyline of Jersey City. All right, you get it. Oh, how do I advance? I'm going to advance. We can close. All right. Yeah, I just wanted to give you an idea how every event is different. It's really based on what the guest curator wants to do. When I get a guest curator, because I don't know the art scene, they're kind of the captain of the ship, and I'm just here as a support, or like I'm the producer, they're the director.
Welcome to VECTOR.
So I started a podcast during the pandemic. I started a podcast. It's long form interviews with artists, in their studios, so I actually meet with them in person. And the reason why I started this was, first thing, it was COVID. There was nothing, everything, the whole art world was shut down. And then I listen to a ton of podcasts, and it's always neuroscientists and crypto and technology people and politics, and they never have artists. And I'm like, why is everybody afraid of artists? Like, I love, like, all the big podcasters, they never have visual artists on. Maybe they'll have like Grimes, that's like the closest thing to an artist. And I don't understand why that is. So I was like, all right, I'll start it. And it's so long-winded. They're like 2 hours long, and we get deep in art nerd talk. But people like it, artists like it. I don't know, if you're not an artist, it's probably the most boring thing in the world. But the reason why I'm talking about this is I'm trying to record the artists who I meet with here, who can speak English, and I'm going to try to record it for the podcast as well. How do I? Oh yeah, we could play like a little clip just to get an idea.
Welcome to Vector.
Liz did the music.
Liz.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, action. Hey everyone, this is Peter Gregorio. Welcome to the VECTOR Kyiv podcast. Each episode focuses on
Just jump to where she's talking, maybe.
in speech or in writing, and that is not essential. When did they tell you that?
I mean, when you give artists 2 hours, they go deep. It's actually really interesting. You get into the artist's mind and their approach to their work and what they're thinking about. All right, let's move on. So these are the projects that we've done, the ones in black. And then the ones in blue are the new projects coming up. VECTOR Kyiv, issue 10. Then next is Tokyo. And then we're starting a kind of experimental project. We're trying to create a fine art exchange to help fund artists. Yeah. So this is like my dream ecosystem. I want to do vector video. I want to do music. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm very ambitious, but I'd love to build this central hub. My goal is I want Vector to become a central hub where all this content that's created locally in different cities around the world is all accessible from one place. Okay, so now onto VECTOR Kyiv. So we're doing issue 10, VECTOR Kyiv, and this is going to be the most ambitious artist journal I've done because of what's happening with the war, and also because we're going to try to do 3 launches. We're going to do Kyiv, Berlin, and New York. So yeah, so obviously I've been really affected by this war, and I wanted to do something, some small part to help. This was my way of participating in that. I feel like culturally I can help. Like this project, in a way, the VECTOR project's perfect because it's a local project, but also can be distributed globally. So when it took a while, like when I first met Daria, we talked for about 4 months, and I knew I had to come here and meet with the artists personally. So we're in the building process right now. We're building it. It's probably not going to launch for like 3 months, maybe 4, but because we really want this to be big. The whole goal is to find 30 artists and put them in the journal and and try to make awareness of the Ukrainian artists, go beyond the borders, go to America, go to Europe, go to Asia. I think that, with this war, from my opinion, it's important to show the world Ukrainian culture, because obviously it's trying to be wiped out. So this is like my small little part in countering that. So we started building it. We've been meeting with Ukrainian artists. The issue's a little different because of the war. Some of the artists are in exile in Berlin. So this issue is a little different. It's not really based in Kyiv, but the central hub is Kyiv. Everybody knows it around the world. And so it's really about Ukrainian artists. And so we're collaborating with Daria's NGO, which is Art Matters Ukraine, which is really cool. And this is the title, New Order of Trust, which you're going to talk about, Daria.
Of course. Yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit later.
These are images. We've already met with about 5 or 6 artists. I've been interviewing them, talking to them about their work. These are some of the images we've taken over the last 3 weeks. Again, it's 30 Ukrainian artists, 1 to 10 pages. They have freedom of composition, black and white, alphabetical order. It's going to be free at the launch events. And we're going to do 3 launch events. That's going to happen. I don't know how, but we're going to do it. And this is helping us, hopefully, bring attention. So this is one of the artists we met with, Victoria Prydybailo. Is that right?
Victoria Prydybailo.
Yeah. So I went to her studio and we talked, and we went in depth. It's so good to meet artists. I just think artists are the most incredible people in the world. I'm an artist, so I'm biased. So, but I just think, just artists all over the world they're devoting their lives to this way of life, of making a vision, and the visions are absurd and they rarely get paid, or even if they do, it's not enough to survive. And they're well educated and they're international, and the passion that people have, and they're the most out of the box thinkers. And I just think like the government and the tech industry is crazy that they're not. I mean, it's this incredible energy resource in the world, and we're usually ignored. So I'm going to be making these little mini docs. Here's an example of one. Oh, there we go.
Which is southeast of Ukraine, and just across from the nuclear government, which now has been occupied by Russians.
Actually, is that recent?
Yeah,
That's where you're from?
yeah, I'm from the city which is just across the city.
Wow.
There's a river.
Yeah.
It was a river, now there is no river anymore because
Yeah.
one's done. So lens-based 3D created models, which based on is created with the algorithm, and I press on it, and we have this like kind of pictures. We always get photography in the time, basically, so it's like scanning. I saw a picture like of my cousin with javelins as he sent us, and unfortunately he died.
We see the hand from us.
Yes.
And he died.
Yeah, but from the moment as a proof of the reality, it's not longer anymore, but in the war it says another meanings. As I started work with this basically language which has developed through my immigration as well also, and so this interest to bring this visual materiality and in
Should I go on?
understanding the world
Okay. So another artist, Lesky Zolotar, really great guy. We had a really good conversation. We talked for like 3 hours. It was great. And I won't play the whole mini doc, but there's one of him as well.
And lead and talk, with the audience in Ukraine and explain, because we have a strong movement, of the decolonization. What should we do with the monuments in Ukraine after the?
So you get the idea. And this is Alexander. He's here. He's in Kyiv, photographer.
And these photos, will they be part of the journal, or is this
No,
just
so
your
this
background
is-
expedition work?
Yeah, this is the background work, but I'm trying to promote it, put it out there on Instagram, because the more attention that goes to artists, it builds more energy, and I want the world to be aware of them. And also, no, the way it works is the artists are going to make a new composition for the journal. The journal, it's not, I like to think of it more as a collaborative artwork than a magazine. It's really like a bunch of people coming together and making a project together. And it's a unique, yeah, okay, so then we'll leave it with this. This is a poem that Daria wanted me to post. And I'll just tell you how this affects me, and then I'm gonna shut up and let her take over. But again, I just think that the culture, the creativity of Ukrainians, the art that comes out of Ukraine is powerful. It's another piece in the puzzle of winning this war to me. And I feel that I have a responsibility, if I want to help, to be here and to give access to these creative people who are Ukrainian. Yeah, so
Thanks so
that's
much,
it.
Peter.
Yeah.
I think we'll take a minute to just scoot a little bit closer so that we're a little bit more cozy.
I never
I just
showed the
wanted to
journal.
say actually about read the poem of
Oh, yeah,
for a
let me go back.
second, like since because I think it's very important. And this is a poem of Victoria Amelina, Ukrainian writer who was killed in Kramatorsk recently, actually in July. And I found this is one of her texts where she speaks about the poetry and the language and the war and how it affects us, and that like that the language, it feels like that she is a writer, the master of words, basically can't really put all together because she feels like as if the whole language is destroyed. And for me, it's also something like very important experience. And it resonates with me because as curator also supposed to I'm writing text, I'm composing projects, and VECTOR is one of this. And basically for me it's also so hard to put all together because you live in this world which is falling. Some of my friends artists are on the front line, and some of them are like you really literally like afraid even to collaborate because you're like, there is this danger. Even I'm like pretty often I'm like I lived the blackout in Ukraine. I'm back and forth between Berlin and Kyiv all the time. So yeah, this is one of the great examples. And and motivation, I would say, because currently I'm motivated so much by Ukrainians too. Like for really, especially for those who can't speak, I feel the responsibility that I should. And Victoria Melina is one of them. Even we didn't know each other together, but through her works, and yeah, and again, like through the whole, through the war and the peace, also like just through Ukraine, I feel the unity. And this is one of the, by the way, the motivation also to have a concept for the VECTOR Kyiv is a new order of trust, because it's something that unites us. So yeah, let's have a small break between we
Yeah,
go
we'll just
there.
need a few seconds to scoot together.
Okay. Should I grab one of these chairs?
Yeah, sure.
Shall we post? Vector, I mean the vector, right?
Oh yeah, I never showed it.
Here.
This is the vector.
No,
This is it. Yeah.
Yeah, this one.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. Take a seat. Okay, this is a little bit more cozier. So, Daria, I would really love to hear your perspective. Like, how did you two meet? How did the idea of VECTOR Kyiv actually come about? Because I know you've been talking about this for a little while. And could you expand a little bit more on the concept? Because it sounds beautiful, and I'd love to hear more about it.
Thank you. So, and thank you, Peter, so much for this intro into the history that we dived into. And I find it so beautiful. And also, again, Mark, for myself, you thoughts, because I think that this is so important. What really makes me so excited about the project, about the magazine, which you give for free, like giving for free. And this is one of the like things which you understand that people do this because of love to art, and people also will gonna take this because of love to art. And for me, it's the most important. Anyway, like the most important, because like my career over 15 years long already, and in art, and with the like deep downs and ups, but like, and I understand that this love to this what you love, and you do what you love, and if your art is really yours passion, then it's something that will hold you. And so again, it's like a thing itself. The magazine also unites people and bring together um, because of the love to art, and those who are motivated to discover more, as well as, like as Peter said, that he's learning, he's growing while doing this magazine, because of his personal motivation to really make the input and like contribution to this cultural like fight also, and support Ukrainian artists. But at the same time, uh, also I pushing him like because I understand that we this is true, yeah. This our thing, like Ukrainian energy, and like because we understand that you know, the life is happening today, and we really need to live it now fully. And of course, this is really very important to make Ukrainian artists more visible, because we stayed, and our scene stayed for so long in the shadow of empire, and it was really shadowed. And I like I said that from the 100%, because I lived abroad in many countries. In particular, I spent like last years in Germany, also between Germany and Ukraine, and like, and currently working also in one of the leading art institutions of Germany, Museum for Contemporary Art, Hamburger Bahnhof. I speak with my colleagues, and they speak to me. Actually, they asking me questions. Show us, well, like what is Ukrainian scene? Where can we find information? So, like this is also everything comes together, and it's necessary to do it now. At the same time, as I said, like it took a while for me personally as a curator to make this artist journal really, you know, like really strong. I don't know, deep also, because I feel for me like study artist sounds enough, but to be honest, I'm like, how can I present only 30? Like I
It's hard.
shared like 100 artists at least.
Yeah. It'd be like a phone book. You get
No,
everywhere.
it's actually really interesting to learn a little bit about your process. Like, how do you choose these artists? Do you, Peter, have any vetting at all? And the concept itself is quite interesting, is that you let the artists just speak from themselves. Like, there is no actually like intrusion on the other side.
Yeah, I mean that as an artist, one of the reasons why I started this was I was inspired by the power of zines, like the Dada zines, and in the 90s there were a lot of zines. The way the information is distributed, the energy that's created when you do a zine, the whole idea was to give artists more power. Artists tend to be put in a submissive position by the art world a lot of times, unless you're like super famous. You're kind of like, even though you're the one creating the art, you're kind of low on the totem pole. Unless you have, I mean, it's not always the case, but it feels like that when you're an artist. So one of the ways I structured this was to kind of reverse that, to give the artist the power, the voice. And so the curation is very important. Picking the artist is very important to balance it out. But it's almost like we try to almost like stay out of the artist's part of it, you know?
Yeah, so I spoke a little bit about, so
Yeah.
for the New York issue, the first one that you did, you were the curator of that, the
I
guest
did that
editor.
one, yeah.
So, and you said that your intention was to have like a diverse mix, an equal mix of women and men,
Yeah.
and maybe also styles.
Yeah.
What about you, Daria? Like, what are you looking for when you're choosing artists for the Kyiv Vector edition?
Well, exactly. This is very hard. Of course, I keep keep this magazine the concept, the balancing, and of course for me it's always important. And I must say that in my curatorial practice, it was always that I tried to bring together famous names like adult generations and really young artists. For me, like women artists always stayed in my focus because I was part of, by the way, Ukrainian American platform Womaniorial for a long time, then of curators and artists and writers, and and I really felt this like power of supporting each other as a community. And then I did in 2014 a big exhibition dedicated to also to the like female perspective on the war, for example. So I mean, currently but also I'm very aware about that as a every person I have my personal visions. I have a limited focus on things. Therefore, I'm choosing like, yeah, I'm balancing and choosing rationally and trying to understand like, yeah, whom like which strong, like of course strong artistic statement should be presented, because this is a thing really. It will go to it will belong to like in 3 cities as we spoke, in Berlin and Kyiv and New York. This will go to the colleagues whom I'm very good connected, and Peter too, and so this magazine already expecting like some institutions and then museums and famous curators, and I do hope that that will be this will just a motivation and the push for artists' career and for links between Ukrainian artists and Ukrainian art scene and others, international ones. So strong artistic statement for sure, diverse, as I said, both in like generations and the female gender balance. And also, for me, it's also a challenge, and I challenge myself because, of course, I know 30 artists. I can like name easily 30, 100, maybe 200 or so. But just the
Yeah.
thing is that to also to find someone who is not really present, and this is what happening. So for me, also, I'm also growing here, doing that really with a dedication and searching for like names which maybe not were not in my attention. So I'm talking to artists whom they recommend, like whom they would like to introduce, whom they mention, and this is what I love. Vector also about this freedom, also time wise, because I have really like a year for that. We have a year.
Yeah,
And
it happens when it happens.
well,
There's
yeah, but
no,
most
you know
like
what I mean?
I gave myself
But,
here.
yeah, no, but, well, we
Um,
don't want to take too long, but yeah, there's not this pressure to do it quarterly or anything like that. It happens.
Yeah, and regarding the concept also you asked, which I found important. So, um, concept and freedom, and here, yeah, because curatorial position is also about power structures, and like for me, curatorial, like being curator, I'm really like understanding this profession very deeply. I'm learning a lot, and like I'm not like meeting pressure. For me it's more like uniting, build the links and dialogue and really very rich communication, and really rich, I mean, full of ideas. So when someone opened the magazine, which is mostly visual, even we will have few articles from the philosopher, from historian also, and a poem, but most it will be visual and artists. Of course, I'm definitely not curating the visions. So this is where I make total step back. But what I'm offering, as you know, vector is like as a direction, let's say, to think about, to speak about, is a like new order of trust. And this is what I feel it's also like a statement, I would say, more, of course, curatorial statement. And then from this point, artists can, go where they want, and then we take this and we build the like enriching the concept, enriching the conversation, and both like contributing to Ukrainian scene with the works, because artists are doing specially like work special for the edition, and to the international art scene, because I believe that we we have a great potential, and it's not only in the art, and it's not only because Ukrainian has war and the whole attention is coming now. Of course, there is like open window, which was closed because of empire, a lot I would say. But yeah, we have what to say and to share, which will like it can be a good contribution.
So in a way, this is intended as a representation of the art scene of a specific city.
Of a specific city at a specific moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it normally is. This edition is a little bit different just because there's a lot of the Ukrainian artists.
Ukrainians go wide, go global.
Yeah.
Like this is not about a moment in time. This is about 300 years of history, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna,
Yeah,
no pressure.
yeah, that's true. But also it's about like, you know, this,
Yeah.
like we spoke about that with Kyiv, because Kyiv is also like a symbol somehow, this historical, and you know, something that would also want to be vanished by Russian today. Yeah, like the saying like, okay, Ukraine, there was no Ukraine, like Kyiv basically also wasn't fine somehow. So Kyiv becomes like a symbol and the link, and then like maybe a symbolical hub. But many artists also from Kyiv and other cities, they're like moving now very actively. Yeah, so like the artists who are migrating, the artists who are in exile now, the artists who are coming back and forth to the residences. So you know, I mean, in general, you know, artists are pretty dynamic and like in the so, but also as a magnet, I feel like for me, Kyiv is a magnet. It's also my city. I was born here and grew up here, and so some artists are really like linked, and but I see it more as a you know, like sky full of stars, and then they're somehow united. But of course, we spoke that's really dedicated to Ukrainian scene, and strong statement was different perspectives also, because for example, you saw Victoria produced. She so she lived in Ukraine, studied Ukraine, then she moved to Germany, studied there. But for example, when the full-scale invasion happened last year, she was here opening her show. Also, like, so these are people who are like really connected. I'm not taking as a curator, I'm not inviting artists who are disconnected from the Ukrainian scene, but they can be elsewhere, not necessarily here. And those again, and few artists, of course, will be who permanently stay in Kyiv to, you know, because they each of them have very unique perspective, which we need.
Yes. Yeah, each issue is really a different. When I started, it's flexible, so it has to talk to the moment. That's why it's so important for me to get a local curator, because they know what needs to be done. I don't. I just know that I'm driven to do it here, you know, and try to. I feel like my job is to try to get it out there. You know, that's why normally we print 500, and then we have sort of the digital version. But I want to try to print 10,000 of this issue, and,
very ambitious.
and I want it to be that way from now on, because now that I have that foundation, this is. I mean, I'm trying to grow the whole ecosystem now. There's something about it's so weird, because you just think, oh, it's a book, it's a magazine, like what's the big deal? But I swear to God, like here it is. I swear it has so much energy and power. Like it resonates. People, artists who were, this is the Berlin edition, artists met through this journal and they're still friends to this day. I'm connected to like 30 different people in Berlin and their network. People change their work because of the journal. People put it on their resumes. Sometimes I like find it in like some like cafe or something, just laying there all covered in dirt. And like that's my ultimate dream with Vector, is that in like 50 years, somebody does a PhD on the journal. Like that's my big dream, that some grad student discovers it after it's been like forgotten about for like 20
I mean,
years.
if you can envision it, it would happen. But I'm curious, you started to talk about this a little bit. So you've done these, you've been working on Vector since 2007. This is basically 15 years of these
Yeah.
journals and of these projects. Like, what are some of the impacts that you've seen from publishing, apart from artists making new connections, perhaps on the global scene?
I mean, it's just yeah. Some artists have changed the direction in their work. Like somebody who maybe works in video did a graphic work for the journal, and then their next exhibition were all graphic works. Like one of the I was invited to in 2019. I was in Munich building the journal, and I was invited to be the guest curator for the Munich Biennial. The way the Munich Biennial works is they invite a different country every 2 years. So they did, like, I think Turkey and Holland. And so it just coincided with, it was America. So I got to pick 10 artists to be in the Munich Biennial, which was kind of crazy. And so one of the artists in the journal, I asked her if I could take her essay. It was Marilyn Minter. She's kind of a famous painter in New York. I asked her if I could take her essay and print it and put it in the exhibition, which we did. And yeah, so just, it makes connections. It has energy. It opens doors to dialogue. Somehow it gets distributed. I mean, that's sort of the beautiful thing about it, is it's a collaborative art project, but then you can take it with you, and then you can look at it 2 years later. You can, or you see, we can send it anywhere in the world. It's very efficient in, like, the way it distributes art and information and energy. And then my big plan is, when I start building this central hub, is that people will be able to access those artists through that hub and actually get to know their work. And in a way, I don't know if you know what Twitch is.
The online streaming service
For gaming.
for gaming, yeah.
Yeah, like, I want to try, that's one of my inspirations. Because, like, why can't that be for artists?
Twitch for artists.
Yeah,
You would
I
go
mean,
online and see performances or
whatever
streaming
it is,
interviews.
or you see their work, or you commission them, or you're able to, like, yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
It's
well,
new.
if you
It's
can
gonna
see
take
it,
me,
you can
like,
build it.
yeah, like, yeah. I'm gonna build it.
Yeah. Daria, you wanted to add something a bit earlier.
Yeah, I'm honestly very excited about the freedom again. I'm just thinking how much, and a horizontal collaboration and all these links, because basic relationship also, because again, like, Peter is an artist and he started it from like idea and the bottom of his heart. At the same time, it's very political too, because this is not a commercial thing. And if we speak about the, like, American market, this, like, goes in the dialect, I think, this, and in Ukraine, for example, this magazine also reminds me, besides the artist journal in Dadaism, but in Ukraine was like Sam Vidav, which
Yes,
was underground, political, independent publishing. And many artists, writers, and basically Ukrainian culture survived also partly like because of that, like thanks to this Sam Vidav, self-published magazines, journals. So it's also a tradition here. And it's also a very strong thing itself, as you say, so printed in, like, in time, in particular conditions, political, social conditions, and with particular relationships. And as you see, for us, it's really important. We pay a lot of attention to relationship, like, between us as a producer and curator, between artists with whom we meet, speak, and we really go deeply. And I also have a lot, like, trust to artists, and so when I showed them, so from the idea, yeah, like, I was like, okay, let's see. So when I got the first VECTOR magazine in my hands, paper one, I was like, oh wow, it's interesting. Okay, but black and white, but like, oh, I want actually colored. And I tried even to, where are my limits? Like, as curator, can I change something? He's like, Daria, this is a concept. Like, you have freedom, but not this. I'm like, oh, okay. But actually, it's also very interesting, because this limitation pushed artists to create in it, and it really became like, as like art piece, artifact. And I must say that artists who Ukrainian artists also, who check this magazine or internationals, they're like, oh, this is a famous artist, like, oh, this is my teacher, even like was so famous professor. And again, it's like you have, and Peter today showed us the huge list of artists,
It's crazy.
yeah, both famous and like young, or those who became
Yeah.
famous after. And this is like a network. So I believe, and this is my also desire, that like later, of course, that each artist will receive also magazine with Ukraine, and it also can be pushed in a network through artists, and then collaborations between them. Because of course we need institutions, we need authorities like museums and governmental institutions. I think this is what is really important, and what we are fighting for, and what we're building the last 30 years in Ukraine. But at the same time, all these horizontal things, and like with, like, as my NGO also, I found it because I understand that there is a process which I want to grow and like from independently. And I must say that, and then like connect and like support this international scene, and this is also one of the goals.
Beautiful. Peter,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask
Yeah.
you about your, like, why specifically you were moved to work with the topic of Ukraine.
So when the war started, I guess I'm like a lot of Americans where I was paying attention. I mean, before the war, I was aware of Ukraine, but I wasn't paying that much attention. So when the war started, I at first it was like, this is crazy. Like I thought humanity was beyond this kind of thing. I can't believe we're back to this. I guess I was naive, you know. But then I became obsessed, and I started like following YouTubers and just watching what was going on. And I don't know why, but I was obsessed. And then, so I have to kind of work backwards. Like, why am I so obsessed with what's happening here? So I do have a family connection. So, so I'm from Brooklyn. I'm fourth generation, and I'm like typical Brooklyn, where I'm half and half. I'm half Italian. My father's family. And my mother's family, all I knew was that my great-grandfather, when he arrived in Brooklyn at Ellis Island, he came from Kyiv. But I didn't know anything about him. He was a teenager. I know that. Like I have the document. I have to find it. And they changed his name at Ellis Island. I know that, the last name. And I talked to, about 5 days ago, I talked to my uncle, who's like the oldest living in my family. And he said that he came from, he called it the Pale.
The Pale
region?
Settlement?
Yeah,
Oh.
and it's from Mariupol. That's where he came from. And then I looked up Mariupol, and I knew because of the war, like the city's been destroyed. But that, you know, it was weird. Like 4 days ago, I was standing actually at your place looking over the city out the window at night, and I was just like, this is so weird that I'm back here. I mean, I guess that's why I'm obsessed. Is there this kind of historical, I don't know what you call it,
Call,
energy or
blood,
calling? Yeah,
the
I
blood is
don't
calling.
know. I mean, we didn't really have a connection to the old cultures. Like I don't have a lot of connection to my Italian side, except my grandmother would make borscht and she'd make stuffed cabbage, you know,
And
food-wise.
Grechka.
Yeah. But I'd like to think that there's some spirit calling me back. I mean, it's weird. He left here. I know why he left. He left because he got enlisted in the Tsar's army. So I think his mother sent him to Brooklyn, so he wouldn't. He was like 17 years old, probably to save his life. I mean, lucky he came to Brooklyn.
Yeah, but it's incredible that you have kind of the
It's
document and you
so
know
wild.
where it moved.
Yeah, I have it because both my parents died, so I have all the files. I got to
Mhm.
go through it and find it. But
Mhm.
I've seen it before, and hopefully I'll go there to Mariupol one day.
Yeah, but
Yes.
interesting that Peter discovered this, exactly the information that it came from, like his ancestor, like grandfather came from Mariupol only 4 days ago on his
Yeah.
way from
It was
Berlin,
kind of
actually
moving,
met
yeah.
and to Kyiv.
And I really feel like I connect here. Like when I talk to people, it's so easy to connect with people here. It's not always like that when I do Vector. It's
We need
like,
to vector in other cities.
yeah,
Mhm.
it takes more time.
Mhm.
The hardest was Berlin. But now I have a
Interesting.
great community there. But but
Mhm.
but yeah, the people I'm meeting, I mean, I'm getting to know this place for the first time. I'm just trying to be present and learn, really, because I have a lot to learn. Like, Daria has been giving me homework. Like, she told me to read a history book, and she wants me to learn Ukrainian. And
I do, yeah. This is how I work. So if you want to work with
and
me, like,
and she's giving me like missions to go, like, go to Lviv and meet with this person. And it's why, I mean, I went there alone. Like, just the trip from Berlin to Lviv was crazy.
yeah, I'm so
Yeah.
proud of you because really I had to work in a
Yeah.
museum and I couldn't leave the job earlier. And Peter was like, "Oh, I want to go to Kyiv as soon as possible." Like,
I
I'm
know,
like,
I was in
"Okay,
Berlin.
in Kyiv we'll go together," but because I'm responsible
Yeah.
also. But like, first you go to Lviv then, and he did the trip alone.
Yeah.
And I think it's also a very strong existential experience now. Is anyway, it is difficult, but yes, as Peter said, like I made some connections, so he met some people from the cultural community, and he knows also one more scene, which is, by the way, very enriched now by people from Kyiv because
Mhm.
some of them moved to the west too. So it's like inner circle and political, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's fascinating how these roots
Yeah.
all come together. And we will be wrapping up pretty soon, but I just wanted to check if anyone in the audience had
Yeah. If
any
anybody has
questions.
questions. Or that's all.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, this Berlin Kyiv connection I find fascinating because there was an article in the New York Times before the full-scale invasion about emerging nightlife in Kyiv, and I sort of like found like similarities between the two cities. I've spent more time here, but I've spent some amount of time in Berlin. But I was kind of like, I guess, like, Daria, what drew you to go to Berlin, and what do you see as like the connections and maybe the contrasts?
Well, I live in Berlin since 2016, but actually basically between Kyiv and Berlin because I was back and forth, and I spent in 2021 I was back to Kyiv. So really, because I have running my institution Art Matters Ukraine, I launched also the first residency like right before the full scale invasion, and I had one artist here. And created exhibition in National Art Museum of Ukraine. So, but I mean, so I lived between the cities, and I have experience. But my motivation actually to go abroad was to study curatorial studies, and I chose Berlin because we don't have this at all in Ukraine. And for me, it was important to be expert, not just make exhibitions. So, but talking about the similarities of the scenes, yeah, and also like to become expert and to bring Ukrainians into the international, because I really saw being like a travel person, I always was shocked when foreigners said like, "Oh, like Kyiv. Oh, we don't know anything. Oh, maybe we'll not see each other." And once I moved to Berlin, everyone was like, "Oh, Berlin, cool. I'll be there next week, and we will meet each other." So basically, the difference, if you ask me, like the connection, it's in mindset also very much because I really brought many friends from Berlin to Kyiv before the full scale invasion, and they were shocked that it's only 2 hours flight, that actually the city looks like European city. It's not like Soviet and dark and or a village as the German propaganda also, or like Russian propaganda in Germany promotes it. So vibrant music scene and art scene, of course. Infrastructure in Ukraine is not that developed, and artists, it's so hard for artists to survive, to earn money. We don't have that much grants and so on. So um speaking about the elevate, like, and that's why, for example, we are launching the Dirt magazine, and we also try to fundraise more money and give the those who contributes to the magazine also to the donate partly to the organizations which support us. And so elevator, what is another difference between Berlin and Kyiv, that elevator, I mean, from the independent scene to the institutional scene here is much faster, is much more dynamic, I would say, because in Germany, in Berlin, for example, yeah, there is this scene like low, I would say, independent, and then we have institutional, and I already have experience in both, and yes, it's so hard to get there, and there is not much connection between them. But again, I'm super there was a lot of exchange, and even in May when Kyiv was rapidly like attacked, we had Berlin DJ playing here, and in Berlin now, like very cool artists moved their studios also to work, like Alexei Zolotar, he really moved recently. So I feel that, but for me it's very organic because actually Kyiv and Berlin were always connected. If we go back to the avant-garde, to the times of 1910s, 1920s, before the Soviet machine like really censored works, censored avant-garde artists, and killed many of them, they were just like going there, study there, or making exhibitions. And also one very famous artist who linked to both, like for three cities, to Berlin, to Kyiv, to Berlin and New York, this Alexander Archipenko, avant-garde artist. He was like, he moved to Berlin in beginning of 20s, and he opened his school. He was very successful, and he sold their works. He was exhibiting in museums. So honestly, these are connections which are still hidden, uncovered. And this is what, like, I personally trying to do, and we are going to do also with this magazine, with presentations. We'll pick up because then, because mostly our stories and connection between Ukraine and Germany are or dark because of the Second World War, or and all this like blame, shame, fight, and so on, or it's all about like, okay, clubbing, which is great. I mean, I do love, and I just want people like go a bit deeper, because when we learn about someone, we learn also about ourselves.
Yeah, I just want to say that I agree about the historical kind of ties that were between Berlin and Ukraine. It's not only the avant-garde; it's even earlier from the Kulturlich, from the Jewish organizations, and a lot of kind of the concepts that became more widely known in Europe and then in New York City about an idea of a Jewishness, a cultural Jewishness outside of religion, and that would speak
Yeah.
through art and through books. That was born in Kiev.
Vaudeville.
Vaudeville, absolutely. I mean,
It's
there are so
totally
many.
Eastern European.
Yeah, there are so many influences that came from Kiev and came from this region, but which were just closed off due to the historical hegemony that the Russian Empire brought. So, in a way, I hope that this connection, it's just being revisited and re-strengthened. And
So we work on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think so far, I think this is a great city, and artists and creatives love the new raw places. You know what I mean? I hope that a lot of creative people move here.
I must
I
say that
really do.
I
Yeah.
continue like during the war, and I'm so grateful to those creators like who still coming, and the more. So the first whom I brought this year was Willi Reinecke, German film director, and it was in May and June, and now Peter Gregorio from New York, and like it's what we spoke in the beginning. It's about cultural diplomacy. It's about direct democracy. It's about all these things which like small and big at the same time. And it was like we all make small, and it's everything has a meaning. It's really important. And it's also a statement for the whole world that yes, we are living, we are creating, we are collaborating, and will not gonna stop.
excellent.
Yeah.
Well, unless there aren't any other questions from the audience. Okay, we have a few.
Yeah.
Let me give you our mic.
Thank you. I love questions. Love it.
Cool.
I wanted to ask why the magazine is black and white.
So
Good question.
Yeah, it's funny because everybody always tries to fight it. No, there's three reasons. So, but I just made that up, so I gotta come. So the first reason is the whole project was meant to be very efficient. So it's like this paper is always the office paper size of that culture. So in the US, it's letter size. Here it's A4. It's cheaper to print black and white because the idea is it should be as easy as possible to get it done. So and somehow by keeping it efficient, it slides through things. Like that's how we were able to do it at these big institutions. It's like this one night. So part of it is efficiency. The second reason is every single thing is so like right now, technology, everything is in color. Everything is like overproduced. Every magazine, every book, every video. So this was almost like the opposite. Let's strip it down to its most minimal, efficient core of the idea, and to get to the essence of what that artist is trying to say, and force them to limit themselves so they don't. It's like you can't hide behind the glam. It's like you really got to get to the essence, and it looks cool. And even the cover is just white and it says Vector. It's like the opposite of everything out there. Everything is overloaded with content. So yeah, and I wanted it to have this kind of fetish quality to it, meaning like I wanted it to feel different than anything else I'd ever seen from now, and somehow the raw graphicness of it, even though it's nothing new, it just felt like that. And then lastly, my father always did black and white photography. I grew up and I'd go with him in the darkroom, and there's something about it that is, I don't know, it gets under my skin. I mean, I hope I answered your question. That's just my thinking behind it.
Thank you.
I got a lot of advice when I was building it. Like I didn't build it right away. It took me 6 months to figure it out. Originally, I was like playing with the idea of like stapling it together and doing it really lo-fi, but I wound up with this hybrid of kind of like a beautiful journal and the efficiency of a zine, like a punk zine. So.
Yeah, actually, this is what when we negotiated with Peter, I was like, black and white, okay, but I'm so limited also. And I feel like, I worried really that for me was a issue somehow as a curator too, because the one who's communicating with artists. But then we spoke with Peter, go deeply also, and I like about the meanings, which is very important for me to understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing that. Yeah, and then also to say this and communicate that with artists. And then he said, like also very cool. So like, yeah, then it's freedom. This is punk, and I'm like, oh, actually, yes, I can be badass curator. Finally,
Exactly.
like, I don't need
It's
to be
punk
this
rock.
like, yeah, I don't need to be this like a good
It's
girl,
cool.
like who has like deadlines. I had this word, and once artist called me like Daria deadlines because I was always like on these things. And here I have no deadline, basically only the one I created for myself. And I can be badass curator. I can be punky and cool. So thank you, Peter.
Yeah, this one artist and this is the Berlin edition. His essay is he ripped his pages.
In
That was
each
his essay.
magazine. So yeah,
So
show
he
it.
sat
Show it.
there-
It's great.
Yeah, he sat there in the
500
gallery.
copies.
We were doing the opening of the gallery, and he sat there 2 days before, and he put headphones on, and 8 hours a day, for 2 days, he was just ripping and ripping. I mean,
It's also a cool statement.
yeah. I mean, there's so many things in here, like graphic kind of stuff. Then some people do like essays, like art critical essays. This was interesting. He wanted me to interview him, the artist. So I interviewed him, and he made this drawing of me interviewing him, which is kind of cool. I actually use this for the podcast as the. Yeah, it's completely diverse. See, it's cool.
It's super diverse, and also black and white makes it look very, very chic.
Yeah,
So
I wanted it to be chic. I wanted it to have. It has a brand, right?
it does.
And the continuity is important because then it becomes part of the. There's something about when you, I don't know, this is, maybe it's branding, it gives it more historical significance.
Well, first of all, I wanted to thank you, Peter, and thank you, Daria, for doing such a fantastic job and for doing it for Ukraine. It's truly, truly appreciated. And my question is pretty complex because I do not know to whom I should address it, but I feel like it's more of a curatorial question. So I'm going to ask you, Daria. So I imagine when, working on the magazine which showcases like artistic scene in each city, there's a different climate everywhere and different ecosystem everywhere. And now that we are talking about Kyiv, specifically wartime Kyiv, you will probably be working with messages and stories and artworks that you have never worked before, specifically works that do not only talk about identity, but also about some gruesome things like death and also pain that we are going through daily. So touching upon the notion of dialogue that you mentioned earlier, Peter, of using magazine as this platform to initiate dialogue, international dialogue, what are the messages that you guys wanted to project in the magazine, and instill in the magazine that you think the world needs to hear, using Vector as a platform? And I'm sorry if it's too complicated of a question.
No, it's a very good
Yeah,
question
it's a
and
great
very
question.
relevant. And I must say that you didn't know to whom address this question. I must say there is no there are no people to whom you can address, because this is a question to artists, and we are not choosing, like me as curator, I'm not choosing the messages like or historical. It's a different thing. And even the topic, like new order of trust, is also like highlighting it's invitation, and it's my open communication, and it's a value. It's also about the value which we have, because something with what Ukrainian society learn and doing now, continue doing, like we trust it. We trust each other. Yeah, we're like sending money to some people like every day, some donations. It can be €1 or €5 or like 100 or something. So we support, and we building. I feel that there is like really strong, so it's not a vertical, yeah, it's all this horizontal. So at the one hand, it's my reference, and yeah, my strong reference and curatorial view on this. What is relevant is like in this concept and the text which I'm going to present in the magazine, the new order of trust. At the same time, it's highlighting the concept of magazine itself, because also Peter said, like, yeah, you're free to do whatever you want, except like black and white, like a few things. But basically,
like
it's a
5
lot, and
rules.
artists too. And
Yeah.
so as curator, and also as curator, I also could choose to really curate artists and their work, yeah, or like give the total freedom. And I also chose like to make the step back. So once the magazine will be launched and we'll do the presentation, I think that then we all can like we will see what messages are there, pain or and violence, or also light, because I see how many artists now are searching for this like light, inner light, maybe after living this blackout. So I feel that this, yeah, so we accordingly invite you already to the future launch in Kyiv, because this will be first. It's also for me very important, and for Peter to make it first in Kyiv, and then we will go west, east, whatever. But this is the heart, where our heart is, where my heart is.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to return the microphone.
Thank you so much for the question.
Peter, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I want to say that, yeah, you said something really good, which is that in a way we discover what the artists want to say after the journal's done. You know what I mean? We don't quite know what it's going to be. We're all going to discover it. It's just this like architecture. And then, I mean, I have my goals, which are I want Americans to get to know Ukrainian artists, Europeans. I want the world to see that this is like a really strong culture. And I want, yeah, I mean, my dream would be that some of these artists get known in New York and the West. Maybe I hope they get exhibitions or money, that would be my dream, like help their careers. And like, and also, I mean, I have no idea that this has any impact, but I want Ukraine to win. I don't know if this is, I mean, I can't fight on the front line. This is the best I can do. I mean, I hope it does something, a little bit, maybe. You never know, right? With these projects. So, yeah, that's it.
I think that's a beautiful thought to kind of wrap us up for the night. So you're both here for the next couple of weeks doing studio visits, getting to
Mhm.
know local artists, and planning ahead for the presentation that will take place in next year, 2024.
Yeah, I'm gonna come back for like a month.
Yeah, I
Next
think that
time.
already will be then 2024, early 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we will collaborate also with publishing house in Ukraine, so it will be
Yeah.
also made in Ukraine.
Yeah,
for
I'm gonna try to work as local as possible.
Everything.
Printed here, everything.
Yeah, because it will be really like high quality, and will show the world how like that we have a good quality that very also competitive and can make the input into the into the common basket. Let's say. Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much
thanks
for your
this.
amazing also, Lucia, for
cool.
your amazing moderation. And I'm so glad to be here with you, not only in Kimahla Academy where we studied together, but now already
Oh,
in this.
you both studied.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
I think it's cool.
Anyway,
Cat is out of the bag. But
Thank
yeah,
you
really,
to-
it was a privilege to have this conversation here because this collaboration, VECTOR Kyiv, this really stands for everything that America House is. It's beautiful to see creative collaboration between the U.S. and Ukraine, and to see
Agreed.
artists and cultural workers from both sides coming together to tell a story, to bring the two sides closer. And I really look forward to seeing the results of your work together, to see the impact of the project as we go on. And I hope to see you both here again soon. And thank you to everyone who joined our conversation, asked their questions today, and to everyone watching us online. I encourage you to follow both VECTOR and Art Matters Ukraine, two really great organizations that are doing wonderful work in Ukraine and in the name of Ukraine abroad. Really, that's it from me. Any final remarks for our viewers, for our audience today?
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming, and thank you, America House, for hosting us and giving the platform and your questions. It was so great. Let's stay in touch, and just let's create together and support artists. And really, even like during the war, actually, it's one of the most important things.
And I just want to say thank you because I'm trying to get Americans aware of this project. So, and I haven't really told anybody except for my circle. So this is great. Hopefully
News exclusive.
America will. Yeah, I'm hoping the word gets out. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
everyone share the news with your friends. Tell everyone VECTOR Kyiv is coming 100%. Thank you guys for joining us, and have a great night. Bye.
Night.